guys are back for another edition of Talking Preps. We're talking right after the regional semifinals were completed. We have 4 CMS teams that advanced to the regional finals. Coach Mitchell, right off the bat, how strong are CMS conferences? You have 2 girls teams and 2 boys teams, both playing for the chance to go to the state championship game.
You know, we've said it all year. We've said you got to beat each other up in Charlotte just to get out of the West. And here it is. I think 3 weeks ago we said we'd see a Mallard Creek Vance match up once again, and we've got it. So I think that Mallard Creek and Vance both had the toughest strength of schedule of the top 25 schools in the state. So that right there alone says it all.
Yeah, and Coach Rick, same thing on the boys' side. We have 2 CMS teams playing.
Right.
This was considered a down year in the state, somewhat for CMS. What does that say that Olympic and North Meck have advanced to the state regional final?
I don't know whether it was that much of a down year because North Meck is loaded with talent and they have 5 Division I players. And you look at Olympic, they have 2 really good players in Josh Banks and Trevon Williams. And I think the winner of that game is going to win the state championship. And I've said it all along. I've been going with North Meck from the very beginning of the year, and I'm going to stick with it.
Randall, I guess you're going to be going with North Meck as well on Saturday. We're going to get your
No,
pick. You're going to hold on to it.
No need to jump off the ship right now. Everything went the way I expected it to go last night, so I'm going to keep riding the wave.
I want to talk to Christy. I want you to talk about the girls' finals not in Charlotte. We got Newton Conover is going to play Salisbury and Forbush. We're filming this Wednesday morning. Salisbury and Forbush play Wednesday night. Then Freedom, the team you've been backing all year long, is going to play Southeast Guilford. I mean, what can you say about those couple games outside of Charlotte?
You know, I'm going with Newton Conover. They're 27-2 this year. China Cornwell is an amazing athlete. She's huge in all aspects. Salisbury's a pretty loaded team as well. They're 28-1 right now. They're going to play 28-2 Forbush. And if I were just going to take a guess, because at this point in the season, it's all about guessing. This is like picking the Super Bowl champion. Who's going to have the best night? Because at this point, everybody's a great team.
That's right.
I'm going to go with the Newton Conover matchup. As well with Freedom, 29-0, and I'm going to stick by it. And I think they're going to end up being 32-0.
So you saying you think Newton Conover is going to the state finals and Freedom going to state finals? Is that what you're saying?
I do. I think Newton Conover.
All right. Well, let's talk about the big CMS game. Vance Mallard Creek, number 4. As a coach, do you like playing a team 4 times, Coach Mitchell?
You know, I've never had the opportunity to do that. So 3 times is enough for me. But I've never never had the opportunity to actually play a team 4 times.
Right.
But looking at them, I mean, gosh, I don't know who to pick. In December, Mallard Creek took it by 3 points. In January, Vance took it by, I think, 9 points. And then in February, Mallard Creek took it again by 4 points. I mean, right now, Mallard Creek's up 2-1 on Vance. But Vance, you know, I went ahead and broke down a little bit of data, and Vance has scored 160 points on Mallard Creek, and Mallard Creek 156. So there's only a 4-point difference between those 3 games. And I really think that on Saturday, this could be an overtime game, a double overtime game. I think this is going to probably come down to one possession. Who's going to show up?
Wow.
Both teams have what it takes.
Randall, your friends at Vance are on you because you've been picking against them. They say no respect for Vance. Talk to your fans and then tell me about this game.
The funniest part about this is that the third game I was like on the fence and I thought Mallard Creek. This game I'm on the fence again, but I think Vance is playing really, really well. I've heard the cries, but I honestly think, especially coming off their win last night, I think they got the momentum. I think they're playing their best basketball at the right time of the season. I agree with Coach Mitchell. I don't think it's going to be a runaway. I think it's a 1 to 2 possession game. But if I had to pick, I'm gonna go with Vance this weekend.
Wow.
The crazy part is we have 4 teams right here in Charlotte, and all 4 teams have to travel to Hickory to play each other.
Right. Exactly.
I remember in the old days, the old format, when they would take the semifinal games up to Greensboro, we would have all Charlotte teams. We'd have that same argument, why can't we play here in Charlotte? The crowd last night at Mallard Creek, Clarence Johnson of Mallard Creek talked about it, was incredible. I think the crowd Saturday in Hickory, and I hope they play at Lenore Ryan. We hadn't heard the venue yet at the time of this filming. It's going to be phenomenal. It's nice to see huge crowds for girls basketball. I think no matter which team wins, Charlotte is the winner because we're sending a great team to the championship. And it'd be nice to see a Charlotte team bring one back. I don't think we won one since Barbara Nelson's back-to-back at Myers Park. Southeast Raleigh's been in 3 straight finals. I think they're going to probably come out of the East. So it's going to be a tough go for whomever comes out of the West, and hopefully everybody's healthy after this game. As far as predictions, you know, Mallard Creek has been there with Coach Johnson and his assistant Kerry Sargent. I think this is their 3rd time in the regional championship. They come up short. Maybe the 3rd time's a charm. But Vance has a young team. I know Coach Ryan talked about at the beginning of the season. Coach Mitchell, he thought they could be national good. Well, this is the kind of game, if you win, you become national good. So right. I think I agree with both of you guys. It's going to be a toss-up late. Last couple possessions should decide this one. Going to be a great game. Now,
I wanted to also, before you move on to boys, I also wanted to congratulate Cuthbertson and Providence on phenomenal seasons. They both lost last night. Cuthbertson lost by 3 points on a last-second 3-point shot, and that's a tough way to end your season. And also for Providence, this is their best record in school history, 25-3. Coach Bean has done a great job changing the culture. I spoke with her briefly this morning on just, you know, what did it take to get the girls to buy in? And she said, you know, year 1 was tough. Year 2, you know, she ran off a lot of kids that didn't want to buy into the culture, but those that stayed really bought into it and have really changed the program. And I think a big thing that changed for them this year is Amari Davis. We talk a lot about Nyla McGill for Providence, but Nyla showed up from Illinois. And speaking briefly with Coach Bean, you know, she said, you know, she gets a phone call, says there's a girl that wants to play basketball that just transferred from the front office. And a lot of times when you get those phone calls, you're like, okay, you know, send her to the gym. But this kid was legit, and she showed up, and she's been huge for them this year. She averaged 13 points, 8 rebounds, and I think was really the difference maker of carrying their team over the hump.
I'm sure when Coach Bean got that phone call, Coach Mitchell, she asked if she was a big first.
Right.
Yeah. Well, guys, we had 2 fights last night in regional semifinals. The regional South Granville game in Creedmoor was stopped with 19 seconds to go because there was pepper spray and a fight going on. South Granville was leading 72-66. I think they're going to finish that game on Thursday. We had another situation, another part of the state where a game was stopped early because of a fight. Just your thoughts on that, Coach Mitchell, Coach Lewis Randall. What do you guys think about these types of things? I mean, you just want to see playoff games kind of come off with that altercation. Yeah,
Matt, it's just bad, and there's really no way around it. I mean, you're going to have fans everywhere, and just depending on your show pros and if they're checking bags and purses and whatever, you know, you're getting wanded going into games. I told you earlier when we played down at Richmond Senior, you actually walked through metal detectors, like airport metal detectors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's really no way to stop it unless we go to the extra expense of hiring more show pros that are actually what are they going to do, pat you down before you come into game? I mean, fans just have to realize there's zero tolerance for that kind of stuff.
I just think it's very sad and embarrassing. It's not a good look for public high school basketball or basketball in general in the state of North Carolina. And it's going to be very difficult to contain. When you have these big high-profile games, you're getting crowds that are 1,500 to 2,000, and it's very difficult to contain, like she said, from a security standpoint.
I think what happens in a lot of places when we have things like this, they start playing games in the afternoon. I would hate to see that happen here in North Carolina. Randall, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I feel bad for the kids. Like, you worked hard all season, and because of a fight breaking out, now you can't, you know, get ready for your next game or, you know, try to win this game. Just puts the kids in a really tough spot. And, you know, I understand, you know, we've been to games where the crowds have been great and they've been, you know, everybody likes a hostile environment, but you like it to still be safe and you want people to worry about their team and their team only. So when situations like this happen, it kind of just gives a black eye to basketball in the state.
Yeah.
And Langston, did you say they're going to travel and play the last 19 seconds of this game?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, how do you even get ready for that? I mean, it was already, a 6-point game?
6-point game, 19 seconds to go. That's correct. Yep. The answer is I don't know, but that's what's going to happen. Coach Lewis, I want to ask you about the boys' games. Forest Hills is going to play Shelby. Forest Hills is unbeaten, but Shelby has not lost to a 2A team. They've won 15 straight games. That's almost like an unbeaten versus an unbeaten in 2A. We hadn't talked about Shelby a whole lot. They won the football state championship, and now they have a chance to win the basketball state championship. And then the boys, Freedom's boys, just like the girls in the regional finals, they're going to play Hunter Huss, a team that you saw earlier.
Right.
Just kind of your thoughts on those two games.
Well, the thing with Shelby, that's a team that's an unknown. We haven't had a chance to see them. I haven't seen them at all this season, so shame on me. But, most of the time, those type of small mill towns, many of the players on the basketball team are two-sport athletes. They're playing football and basketball. So I'd imagine that Shelby's going to be a very, very athletic team. They're probably going to play up-tempo, really press, going up against Forest Hills. And just to mention, we talked about Matt Size, what a great coach he's been. And the last 5 years, I did some checking. He's won an average of 29 games the last 5 years. And they have one really good player in 6'8", Alex Topper, who's going to Bridgewater, who's really a nice hybrid forward who can run the floor. He's pretty athletic, can step out, hit the three-pointer. So that's going to be a very interesting game. I would have to just go with Forest Hills because of Matt Sides. He's been there. He knows what it's like to be in a championship game. And that's being said with very little knowledge of what Shelby brings to the table.
Right. They've been in 5 straight regional championship games. They definitely have the experience quotient. And to talk a little bit about Freedom and Hunter Huss, what do you see there?
Both teams like to score a lot of points. I believe, Freedom averages about 78 points a game. They have 3 guys that do the majority of the scoring. On the other hand, Huss has an average of 77 points per game. They're more balanced. Like I said before, they have basically 5 players that average right at double figures. Mm-hmm. They're a very aggressive team. They play really good defense. They'll get up in you 94 feet. They'll pressure you. But the most impressive thing about them is they play so well as a team. They're very unselfish, which speaks to why you have 5 players that are averaging right at double figures. Mm-hmm. The one kid that I talked about earlier, Tyrese Mcneil, is averaging like 15 points a game. He's a D2 prospect going to Fayetteville State. He might be the highest profile player on both teams. On the other hand, you have Freedom, and Freedom has 3 guys, and they're really top-heavy with those 3 guys as far as the scoring. So I think in a situation, I'm going to go with Hunter Huss. I liked him earlier, and I'm going to continue to ride that wave, as Franda would say.
I tell you what, Freedom's going to have quite the crowd there because we have all the girls fans and all the boys fans, and I've seen how those Morganton people turn out for a championship. And that crowd and those type of environments can make a difference. I see you nodding your head, Randall. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's going to be a tough goal for both of them. I think that, it's not one of those situations where, the girls fans will come first and the boys fans will come second. I think everybody's going to come there. They're going to be there right from the tip to the time that buzzer goes off in that second game. So I agree with you 100%. That crowd could play a major factor in the games this weekend.
All right, Mr. Predictor, Randall, who you got in that game?
I'm going to go with Freedom. I think they played great basketball this year, but I also think, with the fan support behind them, I think they're going to figure out a way to get it done.
All right. What about Shelby and Forest Hills? Who are you going with there?
I'm gonna stick with Coach Sides and Forest Hills. Like I said, they're a veteran ball club. He's got six seniors on that team. They've been here. They've been here, like you said, 5 times and been to three state championships in a row. So I think they'll find a way to get it done too.
All right. Before we start, you guys talk about the Big 4A game. Coach Mitchell, I just want to – do you have any thoughts at all on North Mac playing Olympic in the boys' final? I know that's not your expertise. I'm just curious from your perspective. What do you see in that game?
That's tough because that's 2 of the best boys coaches in the area or in the state. So I don't even know how to go on that one. I can't put it out there, but I think that's going to be a really good game. I think that's going to be a close game as well.
Yeah, Coach Lewis, I know you're picking North Mac. What can Olympic do to pull the upset and beat North Mac in this game?
Well, the thing that North Mac does so well is they're so balanced, which was, I went to the game last night against Independence, and, they have so many different weapons. The one thing I think Olympic will have to do, and they play tremendous defense as well. I think when we talk about Barrington Terry and Dwayne Lewis, both these coaches are superb coaches, but they also emphasize defense. I think the key for Olympic is, number one, they're going to have to keep Tristan Maxwell from just going on a roll and hitting knocking down threes. Like last night, Independence made a run. They pulled it within 7. And then all of a sudden, Tristan Maxwell hits 3 3-pointers in a row, and the game's over. It stretches it from like a 7-point game, and it's now a 17-point game. The other thing I think they're going to have to do is they're going to have to keep Traden Williams out of the lane. Traden Williams is a super quick, athletic point guard. He has a nasty mid-range game, but he gets into the lane and he kicks out to, Tristan or making the dimes, dropping off to Jeremy Gregory. So I do think it's two things. They got to contain Tristan Maxwell from the perimeter and keep Traden Williams out of the lane. Those are the two keys for Olympic.
Ooh, but I'll tell you what, you may be able to slow down Tristan Maxwell if you just face guard him and ask him what he ate for lunch and smell his breath. But Traden Williams has the best handle around. I don't know how you can keep him out of the paint. And then if you do both of those things, Randall, then you got to deal with the big fella. And you called it against Independence. You said Jeremy Gregory would have a big game, and he was the difference in the ball game last night. What are your thoughts on Olympic? Can they do anything to stop the juggernaut that is North Meck?
They can. I picked North Meck to win this game, but I think for them, we talked about Coach Terry and how he emphasizes defense, and that's kind of what his teams are known for. It's not going to be easy, but I think a major key would be to see if they can turn North Meck over. And like you said, Traden Williams has one of the best handles we've seen, but I know, Coach Terry might throw a wrinkle in there where they try to run and jump him. They face guard Maxwell. They do some things a little bit differently on the perimeter just to try to get them out of their comfort zone. That's going to be the key for Olympic. If Olympic's going to pull this upset, they are going to have to make North Meck uncomfortable, which is easier said than done.
Well, if I'm Olympic, I'm going to make somebody else beat me other than Tristan Maxwell. So I am going to face guard him. Like old school, and just follow him as soon as he crosses half court. You're not going to score 5 3-pointers against me and beat me. If it's me, I think that's the only way that Olympic can win. I think North Meck is a heavy favorite. North Meck has not been to the state championship game since 2006. I know Coach Lewis is anxious to get back. He's had squads a lot of people thought could get there and did not. Olympic last won in 2013 when they were unbeaten, Coach Mitchell, and they would let them go to the Dix Nationals. I'm sure you probably remember that. So I think the crowd for this game is just going to be insane.
Right.
I think the talent on the floor is going to be insane. I spoke to a coach in the eastern part of the state, and he watches the show, and he was just saying you guys are so lucky to have such good players in your area, because just a couple weeks ago we were talking about how great the private school finals were, and now we're going to turn around and talk about how great the public school finals are going to be next week. So I consider myself incredibly lucky to have you guys on the show, lucky to talk about these great athletes, and I can't wait until Saturday's games, and we'll just do it again next week. You guys have any final thoughts before we sign off? Regional championship game.
I think this game between North Meck and Olympic, kind of just like last night, will really be decided in the paint. I think Jeremy Gregory and Chris Ford can really put their stamp on this game. We talk about Traden and Tristan, and obviously Josh Banks on the Olympic side. But I think that if those two can, dominate the paint and get some second chance opportunities and finish when they get the ball in the lane, I think that's what will really open it up for Traden to drive and Tristan to get some open looks. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Coach Mitchell, before we come to Coach Lewis, Coach Mitchell, going to the Mallard Creek Vance game, any last thought on what might switch it one way or the other?
I really don't have a clue. Both teams have everything that it takes. We thought that the big girl from Northwest Guilford was going to cause Mallard Creek some trouble, having 6'6" versus a 5'10". We saw that wasn't the issue. So I think both teams are pretty physical. Both teams can get to the paint. Both teams have shot about 400 free throws on the season. So I'm serious. Mallard Creek has shot over 400 free throws this year. So, you got to do the little things. If you can get the little things done, making your free throws, getting, boxing out and getting your rebounds, playing good defense. Right now it's all about hustle. Who wants it more?
Well, you've been talking about free throws all year. It's going to be a war on the floor in that one. Coach Lewis, you can take us home. Final thoughts on this big boys game Saturday.
I do think North Meck has to contain Josh Banks. He's averaging 24 points a game. And I earlier said, he could go off for 30 or 40. He went off for 31 last night. I do think they got to make sure Josh Banks doesn't get over 30 points a game, because majority of the scoring comes from Josh Banks and also Trevon Williams. So they got to contain him. I do think Chris Ford will have that duty of trying to contain him. The thing about Josh Banks, though, he's listed at 6'5", 6'6". He's long. He's athletic. He plays much bigger than his listed height. So, you know, we talked about the matchup against Dean Reber from Northwest Guilford. The thing about Josh Banks, he can hurt you from the inside in the paint. He can score over you, or he can step out, hit the three-pointer, or hit the mid-range. So that's going to be a tough matchup there for North Mac. They got to contain Josh Banks. And our last rankings, we had Tristan as number 4 in our rankings. We had Josh Banks number 7, but when we redo them again after the state playoffs, both Tristan Maxwell and Josh Banks will be top 5 players in the state of North Carolina in our rankings.
Well, how about that? 2 top 5 players going head to head for the right to go to the state championship. You can't ask for much more than that. So we're going to get together next week. We're going to talk about who wins these regional games and who's moving on to the state championship. Should be fun. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll do it next week.
Thank you.
See you later.
Good. Thank you.